We call it Euro nymphing or European nymphing. We're going to introduce you to this technique. Vladi's going to teach you. We're here on the Big Thompson River in Colorado. We're here at the National Fly Fishing Championships, where a lot of people are going to be using Euro nymphing to try to win the national championship, right?
Right.
Vladi does seminars literally around the world on this technique, and you're going to be blessed with his instruction because you're learning from the master. So let's get started.
Okay.
First thing Vladi's going to do is fish the water closest to him before he wades out. He's casting up. Notice the line, there's not a big belly. He's moving the rod tip. He's going to rotate his wrist with a little quick flick and cast it up. No false casting. Again, look at the angle of the line. Comes back. Now, the reason he's flicking that wrist is the fish sometimes will follow the fly. By flicking the wrist, it'll move it enough, and a lot of times they'll grab it. In fact, I'm going to bet that we're going to see a fish caught with that flick of the wrist. Notice how he's extending himself. It's very important to understand this cast. Watch how his arm is just like the rod. Now, notice how he brings the rod over like that. He brings it over there so that it keeps the angle of the line going upstream. So all the line lands upstream. You don't have a belly in the line where the line is pulling the fly. The anchor fly is hitting the bottom. Now, many times in the course of the next few minutes, we're going to be talking about line and what that line's going to do for you. You're going to actually see the line jumping up and down. And when you see that line jumping up and down, that means it's touching the bottom. And between his fingers, he's going to feel a lot. The more you fish this technique, the more you're going to understand what the relationship between that line through the leader into the fly. Why do you have that relationship? It's because you're pulling the line. You're feeling it. And that is where the European type of fishing really shines in this type of water. The rod is straight above the line and he's leading it. He's actually letting the fly sink. By holding the rod up higher, it's sinking down. Now see how he brings the rod down? Now it's right on the bottom then. Again, it's sinking, sinking. See, this is a little bit technique. He's not really pulling it. This is why I say the more I watch him fish. Now see how he raises his arm up? The arm and the rod are one. And that's the hardest part of this, everybody, is learning to do that. Because we're used to fishing a whole different way. We're not used to fishing our whole arm. Now again, he's letting it sink. He's going to rotate the wrist. There he goes, and there's a fish. Flying fish, no less. I know there's bigger fish out there, and you're going to watch in a minute. You're going to see him being caught.
That's a little guy.
Yeah.
Yes. Fish. Opa! Nice fish. Okay.
Really good place to try your European nymphing. Notice that Vladi is going for the rocks, trying to cast so that it gets swept by the edges of the rocks. This time of the day, high sun, the fish are going to be tucked into those rocks, being opportunistic. He's pulling them a little bit slower than he would in the faster water. Again, letting him hit the bottom that time. Really see here how the rod is pointing and following the fly. The current is going to dictate how fast he pulls the fly. Again, working the rocks, trying to find any fish that might be tucked right on the bottom, still feeding. European nymphing works very well in the heat of the day when there isn't a hatch, when you have to really, like, as they say, farm a fish out. I call it a good lunch technique. Bring out the rod at lunch, practice your European technique. Now he's working closer towards the other side. Notice that he stepped forward. He repositions and steps very methodically. Raising his rod tip up.
Change fly.
Change flies. Now he's going to change some flies. He's not getting the effect. Now how would you know when to change flies? Well, that's a feel that you're going to get when you think you should have had a fish, which he thought, and didn't get one. Kind of doing a downstream, swinging it farther down, letting the current swing it. Kind of good caddis technique. So the caddis will go with the current and swing to the surface. Letting it go quite deep now, right on the bottom. There we go. Oh, that was a nice fish. Really working those rocks. Little backwaters behind the rocks. Rocks, of course, affect the current. And what you don't see on the surface, there we go, went right through the rock. That's just where I expected there to be a fish. Notice again how fast from the competition, he makes sure he gets them right in. Notice where the net was, so he just kind of slides them right in. This is why he was the world champion. What you just saw was Vladi hook that fish with his Polish technique. This is where it really shines. The current goes behind the rock and gets sucked in. If you have a strike indicator, what it'll do is that when the fly gets sucked in, it pulls the indicator down. With this technique, the rod's high, the fly gets sucked into the rock, you pull it back out, the fish sees it, and just what you saw right there, you connect up. It's a deadly technique when fishing behind a rock. One of the problems is the rock, especially when they're submerged, doesn't show you that little sucking in current that makes it so effective, and why fish can just lay in there and wait for the flies to come to them. He's working this area. He's keeping a lower profile. Notice one knee is down, the other is up. Gives him good stability, keeps his profile low. And again, he's working where he thinks there ought to be fish. Going a little deeper.
Nice, well done.
Now we're coming up behind a rock, a very good spot. He's going to work the edge of the current. This again where a European method is very effective. Heavy water, difficult, looks like the fly change. He's going to go to a heavier fly to get it down deeper. He worked his way up a shallow area to get into the deeper pocket, and now he's going to make the change to fly.
You don't see any fish here. Surprise! My worm fly worm fly is good.
We're going to go to a pretty deep pool that would be very difficult to fish with an indicator. One, you'd get somewhat of success, but probably not as much as if you'd learned this technique. Now, Vladi, it's really important how you hold your rod to control the depth of the fly and how fast you pull it, right?
Yes. When I cast, to the pool like this, to deep water, fast water, like rapids, I try to put my flies to the bottom, especially the anchor fly.
Right.
And then I try move both flies a little bit faster than current. Mm-hmm. Because, like every insects, when they come from the bottom, they are a little bit faster.
They propel themselves. Yeah. Either like caddis will prepare themselves, mayflies will swim, some will just drift up to the surface so they can hatch.
Yeah, they hatch. And then I move my flies a little bit faster than current. And on the end, try to set a little bit faster, but this is a very short movement. And this movement can imitate.
Mm-hmm. Imitates?
Imitates the movement of the insects.
Actually,
so
you're keeping it.
Very important.
And I think this is important for all of you out there to understand. You're really not pulling. You think you might be pulling it fast in the current, but really what you're doing is keeping your line tight so that you feel a fish strike. Yes. With an indicator, you don't know where your fly is. Here you know how your fly is moving because you're the one controlling it. And every time I watch this man fish, I learn something new. So let's go show us a little bit about that. I'm going to wander out with you, but let me talk to you about another thing too. This is not something your buddy hangs next to you. You don't do that. You do it by yourself. You get down low in a lot of places. You crawl. It's not a buddy system, is it?
Yeah, but some fish are in shallow water and see you immediately.
Right.
I try to be always on the, not when the sun is going to my face, I try to be like that. The fish don't see the shadow.
Right.
This is the shadow,
Again, you can see a little bit different water in this part. He's casting upstream. Again, immediate contact with the line. Look at the rod. He's following the rod. Watch the line. Looked like he might have had a little bump right there. A little higher rod, letting it get deeper. He's gonna pull it now just slightly. Again, watch the rod tip. Very important to see where this line is. It's between that middle finger. Again, he's following it down. The faster the water, many times the shorter the pull or the stroke almost, the way that he's working this. Now see how he's extending his arm? Rod tip goes lower to the water. He's actually bumping right on the bottom. You can see the line, how it was jumping. Look how it's jumping. He's We're going to extend the drift by actually leaning the rod tip and the whole rod into the water. Again, keeping in contact. Watch this. He's going to then tilt the rod down, extend the arm, and increase the drift. Now, the next cast, he's going to keep it high, as you can see right here. Again, it's at a different water level. You want to vary your drifts. Some in tight to the water, some a little higher, some a little quicker, some a little slower. Now, Vladi, let me ask you, what are you trying to feel here? What do you
I feel immediately when, like you says, I control all the time flies. I have contact with the flies.
You feel the fly through the
Any
rod.
touch I feel immediately here. Any touch. And the thing is that sometimes I feel bottom. I feel everything what is on the bottom.
But you're also watching that line too.
Yeah, but you know, I watch line because sometimes line is straight.
It goes in. Could that mean something has happened? That's connection.
Something is connection. Yeah.
You're using all your senses, aren't you? You're using the feel from the line
and
your eyes.
And my eyes.
And then
Everything.
also you're using something else.
Yeah.
It's right up
That's
here.
true.
That you just know there's a fish there, and I'm going to set it because it should be there, right?
Yeah, that's true. You must reach water.
Right. Read water.
Read water. If you fish with this method.
You don't fish water there isn't going to be a fish in, are you?
But you must always thinking. It's never like this. You can come to water and bath and fish. No.
Okay, now we fish this pretty carefully. Yeah. What would you fish it any different? We've tried, 5 or 6 casts.
I try to be a little bit
up in there.
Up
okay,
in there.
let's do that. Let's do that.
Because
walk
I
up
think the flies is going to deeper. Right?
About each current is going to dictate how you move that line.
I agree.
The number one problem that I see when I see people first learn this, they cast and they don't immediately start pulling the line. That is a hard thing for most anglers in America to understand. The minute that line hits, you're going to be in contact.
Immediately you must have contact. Sometimes you can cast and immediately you have fish. You feel like immediately. Because always fish watching, something in the water.
Now, how would you fish that riff over there?
You see there is a V over there. I try to cast up.
Well, show me. Come on, just show me. Let's get.
Okay.
We'll go real slow. I don't want to go swimming. It's the end of the day, and.
See, I try to be in V.
Ooh, that looked pretty good.
You see, little.
But I would definitely want to be where that edge is, because those fish are going to lay in there, aren't they?
That's true.
Well, I thought you had one there.
Maybe. I don't think so. There's too many fish here, but who knows?
Now, would you think?
Try to be near the stone, very close to the rock here, to the stone here.
Notice how the rod is lower.
Only like this.
And it's going right under the rock.
Because always in the bottom of the rock could be hole.
The current is actually taking and pulling the fly into the rock, and he's allowing that to happen with the swing of the rod.
See.
Ooh. That's where Mr. Big Brown Trout would be laying.
Yes.
Okay, now what about the tail of the pool here? If we don't get anything here, would you fish the tail? Okay, we're going to go down and fish the tail.
I know now where they are.